Question number 2, Chris Bishop.
Is that it? That's it.
My question is to Finance.
Order. Chris Bishop.
Where's the Labor Party?
What reports has he received on the international economy and its effect on the New Zealand economy?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, I've seen a number of reports, including Treasury's monthly economic indicators. As members will be aware, there have been continued drops in the international dairy price recently. It's now 40% lower than the recent peak in early March. For the dairy sector, times are turning out to be tougher and maybe for longer than industry experts expected. However, New Zealand's automatic stabilisers in the form of flat to falling interest rates and a reducing exchange rate against the US and Australian dollar will help cushion the effects of a dairy price decline and increase the profits of other export sectors where prices are holding up.
Supplementary, Mr Speaker.
Supplementary question, Chris Bishop.
To the Minister of Finance. What matters of economic relevance for New Zealand did he observe on his recent visit to China?
Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, both political leaders and business operators in China remain reasonably positive for the economic outlook. China's growth does appear to be slowing, more so probably in investment in infrastructure than in consumer demand, where rising wages and a continued demand for high-quality food products would tend to underpin more growth in New Zealand rather than less. And that is good news for New Zealand to see China officially moving from an investment-driven economy to more emphasis on consumption-driving growth.
Supplementary, Mr Speaker.
Supplementary question, Chris Bishop.
How does New Zealand's current economic performance compare with other developed economies?
The Honourable
Well,
Bill
Mr
English.
Speaker, New Zealand faces some of the same headwinds as other developed economies. 2.6% GDP growth in the year to March compares with an average of about 2% growth across the OECD. Tourism, for instance, is growing reasonably strongly because the New Zealand dollar has dropped relative to the US dollar, and this last year we have 3 million visitors, a 7% increase on the previous year, indicating there is sufficient economic growth and confidence in other developed economies to supply more tourists to New Zealand.
Supplementary, Mr Speaker.
Order. Supplementary question, Chris Bishop.
How well placed is the New Zealand economy to deal with any potential slowdown in the rate of economic growth should international conditions worsen?
Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, in the light of recent commentary on the economy, that is a very good question. The Reserve Bank's latest forecast just 6 weeks ago incorporated reductions in dairy prices and at the same time forecast growth of over 3% in the next few years. Recent data indicates that those forecasts may come back a little, but we remain on track for sustained moderate growth. As I've indicated, the exchange rate has dropped considerably, cushioning the effect of lower dairy prices, and interest rates are now flat to falling rather than rising, as was expected just 3 or 4 months ago, and that will help households who may face some headwinds from lower dairy prices.
Question number 3, Andrew Little.